This episode of Bright Hearth is brought to you by Indigo Sundry Soap Company, Backwards Planning Financial, Live Oak Integrative Health, the Kings Ridge Elderberries, the Grey Toad Tallow, A Well-Worn Story, and by our supporters at patreon.com. As we enter a new year, the year of our Lord 2025, many of us are setting our sights on recalibrating our direction in different areas of life. For some, it's merely a slight course correction, a few budget changes here, some exercise there, book reading goals. But for others, it's more drastic, whole habits, new ways of going about some important area of life, marriage, parenting, health, household, and more. In this special episode of Bright Hearth, we welcome one of our friends from right here in Ogden, Jace Reineveld, to talk about one area to consider as you head into the new year, that of currency, sound money, finance, business, and more. Jace is a veteran, a serial entrepreneur with success across multiple industries, a family man, and a member of our church. And he owns and operates Alpine Gold here in Ogden, and actually not just here in Ogden as well, but also here in Ogden. So I hope that you guys are helped and enjoy this interview with Jace, and Happy New Year. Well, welcome, Jace, to Bright Hearth. Is this your first time on Bright Hearth?
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me. I can't, compare it to Lexi, but, we're good in our own ways, I hope.
You and me together, we do form a powerful team, but not the same kind of power that Lexi and I have.
Agreed.
A lot of the reviewers of Bright Hearth on Apple Podcasts have noted a certain energy that Lexi and I have that makes them uncomfortable, that we flirt with one another. And I'm just going to let everybody know that's not going to be the energy of this episode.
You do not have to worry about that today.
Yeah. Those people that were bothered by that, maybe this will take them from a 3 to a 5 star.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, let's go for that.
Okay.
Well, welcome to the episode, Jason. I think it'd be helpful just for everybody who doesn't know you. Some people might know you from different episodes you've done with us. I mean, you were on the King's Hall not too long ago, and everyone should go check that episode out as well. I think it's called The Money of Kings.
Yes, Money of Kings with Jace Reineveld.
That's right.
In August.
Back in August, yes.
Yeah.
And Dan did a great interview with Jace over there on King's Hall that had all of the King's Hall flavor here. But I think it'd be helpful just for everybody to get to know you a little bit. Tell us more about yourself, your history. You've done far more interesting things than I have done over your life, quite frankly. So I think the people want to know, who is Jace?
Yeah, and for context, to the listeners, Brian wants to make sure you don't think I'm some Italian guy just selling gold who doesn't have any other interest. But no,
it's so true. You guys all know, like, we've got that image in our heads of the people the gold. Go to goldgold.com, goldchains.com.
Well, and you know why Italian guys wear chains, right?
What? No,
it's so they know where to stop shaving on their neck. So I'm not Italian. I'm Dutch by nationality or heritage. Born and raised in California mostly. There's a lot of good people out in California, that's for sure. But as we all know, it's a little bit of a challenging place.
Yeah.
Politically and economically in some ways, but I left as a young man to go to the Air Force Academy back in 2009 after finishing up high school. Spent 4 years there in Colorado, and then joined the special operations element of the Air Force in supporting ground troops, primarily conventional Army units in the infantry world, but also, more specialized operations in Iraq and Syria. I've been stationed in Texas, Hawaii, Iraq, Kuwait, and then all over the Pacific. But Utah actually came into the picture right after graduating the Air Force Academy, and I did have a short assignment at Hill Air Force Base, which is probably the reason I'm here today.
Wow.
So decided to get out of the military in 2020, providentially met my wife, Raina, just before getting out. We got married 2 weeks after getting home from a deployment.
Awesome.
And the rest has been just a wonderful history. We have 2 daughters, 3 and 1 year old, and one on the way, and that'll be June of 2025. So not
awesome.
I mean, that's actually now this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Happy New Year to everybody out there. So bottom line is I spent a lot of time in real estate as an Air Force officer, because it's one of those businesses that you can run with another full-time gig. And so I definitely, have encouraged a lot of people to do that. However, when I came out to Utah again in 2020, I realized like prices had just gone up like crazy, and it was more and more difficult to like mentor younger guys on how to get into real estate. And quite honestly, it was discouraging for me because I felt as if like what I did couldn't be repeated. And with the interest rates rising and the price of homes, especially in the Mountain West, there was no way to just buy a house and rent it out and make a profit. We were getting into these like 2008 times where you're like underwater and hoping for appreciation and market changes just to get in the black every year. So I started looking at different ways of how we could be better investors and get a little bit, still love real estate, but how do we get to the point where we're producing enough cash flow to actually justify the real estate purchases? So we started moving into commercial real estate, which is a little bit more business mindset because you're partnering with small businesses with every one of your tenants. You inadvertently become their business partner as the landlord. So we have roughly 8 units of commercial space that we rent, and that kind of got me thinking more and more about what could be offered in the community. As you know, we have plenty of lack in culture here in Ogden, and so I think that was exciting as far as own space and being able to impact the neighborhood. I also worked as a consultant for a lot of tech companies doing DoD innovation work. And so that kind of got me thinking about, what are the different opportunities to generate wealth and build small businesses. And then we just started, taking our own shots in the simple, mundane, but everyday impact kind of businesses. And that's kind of what got us into gold and silver. It is not an exciting business per se, but it is something that operates every day of the week for people who are interested in it. And obviously we'll talk more about that, but we are looking at, insurance, accounting, the trades, and just building ground up houses. And so we're really excited about, the projects that we have in 2025 with, brokering insurance, being a trusted agent with that, doing people's books, preparing taxes, things that are very, again, mundane, but everybody touches them. And we need Christians to do really well. And that's a way to generate long-term wealth. And then the question is, how do we preserve that profit in the meantime while we find the next investment?
So you kind of, this is why I think I was excited to have you on here at Bright Hearth, because a lot of the folks who listen we talk a lot about productive Christian household. Many families are interested in either starting or getting involved with small business or some sort of more household-friendly economic activity than just going and working for a huge multinational corporation, putting some, data in a spreadsheet, or, moving thing from point A to point L, in project management. And those are all great. Those can be great jobs. And we're thankful to plunder the Egyptians as Christians, obviously. And we always tell people, don't just go quit your job tomorrow if you don't actually have a plan or you're not ready. But you've done so many of these different interesting business endeavors. And one question I had for you got into it a little bit, but you've said that gold isn't an end of itself. And I think this ties into a lot of how you just introduced it, but it's more of a vehicle to get, or precious metals, it's more of a vehicle to get somewhere. And I think that ties into some of these other business endeavors that you've talked about. How does that work? What do you mean when you say gold isn't an end of itself?
Yeah, I think over the last 50 or 80 years, we've been conditioned into this mindset that investing is buying an asset or putting money into the stock market or mutual funds. And most popularly today is like, hey, get yourself some Bitcoin. And there's there's a missing piece there that, in my estimation, an investment is more of an activity that you're directly responsible for its success or failure. And that doesn't always mean that you're running the show, right? We recently invested, or are working on investing in a small glass company in Phoenix, and I'm not going to be running it, but I do feel like that is more of a real investment because it's Christian Brothers running it. It's a company that I'm well familiar with, and I know who's providing jobs for, and kind of what the market is, and why we're doing it as a group of Christians. But no, I think there's this somewhat like get something for nothing mentality, where you just give your money to Wall Street, or you put your money on this exchange, and I'm going to become wealthy. And I don't know that that's practical. It's not to say that it's not been profitable for people, and I'm not dogging on Dave Ramsey for saying put your money in a 401k and become a millionaire, but I don't know that that's consistent necessarily with how God has really blessed a lot of efforts. And so I think our view on money is really important, because gold is just, in the end of the day, it is a pet rock, as some people say. It is just an element, right? But it is a preservation of wealth that God created, and then it can be used to invest in businesses and invest in your community and make an impact locally or nationally. But it's a way. It's a stop on the way to your investment strategy. It is not the investment strategy.
Yeah. This cold and flu season, fortify your defenses naturally with the Kings Ridge elderberry syrup and elderberry products. They grow the freshest elderberries on their Indiana farm, cold press them into the tastiest syrup around. Their products are packed with antioxidants and vitamins to boost your immune system. Use code BRIGHTHEARTH, all caps, BRIGHTHEARTH, for 10% off your first order at tkrfarm.com. The Kings Ridge elderberry syrup. Taste the difference, help push back the curse. That's tkrfarm.com. Here at Bright Hearth, we love to support Christian family businesses that are doing great work, which is why we're so happy to commend to you A Well-Worn Story. A Well-Worn Story is a sewing studio based in New Glarus, Wisconsin, and they're making handcrafted leather and canvas goods. It's run by a husband and wife team, and they focus on making beautiful products from natural, high-quality materials that only get better with age, telling your unique story. Made in rural America, this Christian family business makes high-quality handcrafted leather and canvas bags, belts, and wallets, and these are heirloom quality. Stuff that you can hand down to your next generation. You can order online at www.awellwornstory.com and use the discount code BRIGHTHEARTH, all caps, no spaces, to save 10% on any order. Here at Bright Hearth, we're all about helping you not turn into a girl if you're a boy, or into a boy if you're a girl. You know what might be doing that to you? The soap in your shower. And so we are pleased to introduce you to IndigoSundrySoap.com, link in the description, of course, who can provide you with soaps and more without any of the nasty stuff. And because they love you, they're giving you a discount code, guys. So use code, all caps, Bright Hearth, for 10% off your whole order. Support this great Christian company and support Bright Hearth Podcast at the same time. Check them out at IndigoSundrySoap.com. And of course, that link is in the description. So you're thinking about gold almost. I mean, I don't know if this is the right analogy. You might have mentioned this, but sometimes in a business funnel, you have like a software layer, or you have like a layer that facilitates transactions.
The operating system.
Yeah, the operating system. That's what you said. And I think that's a helpful analogy on some level in thinking about gold and precious metals as it relates to productive households, productive communities, productive businesses, because it really doesn't exist so that you can go and behold the splendor of the pet rock, right? It doesn't exist so that you can just pet it and feel it. And like, it is cool.
It is beautiful
to hold a stack of gold coins. It just feels right. But that's not what it's for. It's supposed to preserve wealth, which is really preserving the fruit of human labor, the fruit of human ingenuity, the fruit of human dominion taking, all these things that God has worked into our nature, so that we can then go out and do what all of these things are supposed to do, which is to love our neighbor as ourselves. In the vocational world, like you think about households exchanging goods, that's supposed to be an exchange in a sinless environment where everybody is well loved. The person selling the good is loved, the person receiving the exchange is well loved on the other side of that transaction. And one of the points you've made quite a bit, and I think even in the context of, because we're a church full of different opinions and different approaches to financial matters, and a lot of high cap guys who are pursuing their own different things. So we sometimes joke about like the debates that rage in our signal groups at the church about, the Bitcoin bros and the precious metals guy, and and then real estate and TradFi, and there's kind of like a big swirling conversation. What's cool though is that every single one in our church that's involved in that conversation, they all pretty much agree we're actually just trying to find vehicles to accomplish the things that we all want to do, which is to build Christendom, build productive Christian households and businesses. And I think it might be helpful to see where you're coming from, to talk a little bit about just currency in general, sound money in general, and why, some of the ethical problems that arise with like our banking system, the US dollar, and talk me through some of that stuff as if I'm five, just
great points. I think honestly, and I love how you're saying like your labor being converted into a vehicle that then can be pushed into the future, right? When you were saying that, I'm thinking of my grandfather working as a farmer or a dairyman, and then buying gold and handing that down as an inheritance, and he's encapsulating his labor and hard work and passing it into future generations. I really love that, and I think that'll kind of come into the conversation here about banking in general, right? We are living in a modern world that we've as a collective group here found has many errors and quite a bit of hubris in thinking that man can create value and man can kind of play God in many ways. And one pattern I've seen in the banking system is that man, and in this case, the financial leaders of the world in central banks and what have you, have basically said, no, we're going to be the arbiter of value. We are going to use fiat currencies to run our modern economic system, and we're going to turn away from the natural order of things, which is money being a store value and something that takes work to produce. Whereas today, where you're putting trillions of dollars into the system without any labor, it's just a stroke of a pen or a keyboard. So in traditional societies, be they the Greeks or the Romans or the Byzantines, the currencies were typically gold or silver or sometimes copper, but they represented a way to limit the expansion of a currency, because you had to actually mine this metal, be it gold or silver. And that would kind of prevent inflation because the metal wasn't coming out of the ground at a rate that kind of overwhelmed the market. Now, sometimes there would be natural finds of silver or gold, and that would change the amount that silver or gold related to itself, or how much gold you had to pay for a house or a chariot or what have you. But generally speaking, it was a very stable system. But each of these empires tended to arrive at a point where the government spending wanted to increase at a rate that exceeded the gold and silver either being acquired through economic means or developed through mining. So there's the common stories of shaving the coins and debasing the currency, and that is so important not only because it debases a currency, but because it shows the status or the state of your political leadership. Your political leadership at that point is willing to go against the edicts of God in the Bible that says, I despise, dishonest weights and measures, and you're willing to sacrifice your integrity of your currency in order to allow you to foment war or continue spending or build a socialist state or whatever it is your aim is. The politicians have sold themselves out, and that's why we're so focused in on the currency, because it's an indicator of the heart of a nation in certain ways. So you fast forward to today, where we have rampant money printing, deficit spending, and there's maybe one politician out there who's willing to really talk about it. And so you get to the point where inflation is eating away at people's savings, and it's forcing people to go out and invest.
Yeah.
You have no choice, to be honest. You cannot save money by just holding it in your mattress. And I know that's an old idea, but you know that putting it in a savings account, unfortunately, just is not going to keep up. Your spending power is going to decline every year. So there's a lot of predators out there that will try to get people to invest in things that are not necessarily low risk, and it's potentially detrimental to a family's savings, who, quite frankly, like the father, in my estimation, does not have to be an expert investor. You know, he doesn't have to be a day trader. He doesn't have to be on to the latest thing. My contentment with gold is that you can be consistent and you can be somewhat simple in your strategy and still perform at a level that's equivalent to the S&P 500. I mean, just in 2024, like gold and S&P were like at parity. So, and I'm telling you today that gold isn't necessarily an investment. It's a preservation of value. The S&P is advertising itself as an investment, and it's performing at the same rate. So what does that tell you about kind of the current state of investing? So my hope in using gold as a currency is that it's a simple strategy to protect people from a financial system that is overly complex and predatory at times. And how do we help Christians pass down that wealth until the right opportunity comes to make an investment either in their local community or with another group of Christians? Because Wall Street is just, I don't think, going to be the path forward in the next generation.
So one thing that I'm hearing in your explanation, really of your vision for the productive Christian household, is that I'm hearing a lot of localism, like not necessarily all localism, but keeping wealth within the family of the Christian faith.
Definitely.
And especially locally, and then working your way on out. So investing in households and families in your local area, people you know, people that you want to win, even as you expand outside of that bubble into other areas of life. You're going to be working together with other Christians, like the Glass Company example. Some of our guys have been involved in that here, and also with Christians from outside of Utah as well and outside of Ogden. And it's been an awesome just reification of a lot of the vision that we've talked about, just seeing something in the real world happening that is an embodiment of words that we've all said. Like, hey, let's get Christians to build and invest together and build together, and not just in some of the classic Christian spaces right now. Like, and I say this kind of self-aware, a lot of Christian building tends to be around Christian doctrine and like words and media and things like that. We're a media company at New Christian Press, so hopefully you know I'm not knocking that, but we need quite a bit outside of that as well. We need Christians who are involved in trades and building and making glass and extruding aluminum and making products and designing things and serving their neighbor in the economic sphere. And one thing that has always troubled me, at least in kind of going all in all the time with a lot of TradFi, is that my dollars leave me and they go out into supporting just whole hog, if this is the only thing I do, a system that I actually hate. Like, I actually hate.
It hates you back, Brian.
And it hates me back. That's the thing. It's all fiat currency, which is just debt. It's a debt instrument. That's what the US dollar is, pretty much just debt. It's going to go out and build monopolistic, globalist corporations that hate me. Those globalist corporations are going to, through lobbyists, intentionally increase the regulation of their own industries and efficiently tax it so that they can prevent competition from coming into their industries, so that only a big company with billions of dollars in their bank account can compete in those industries. They're then going to leverage all of their corporate power to shape culture in the image of the DEI gods, pretty much. Woke, DEI, Gramscian Marxism, all those pleasant things. And so when my Christian brother then goes to work, him and his wife, because both of them need to work now because of the debasement of our currency and all these issues, They're going to go work for somebody who has absolute power over their livelihood, which is basically a form of murder, giving life or taking it away. To say, take this vaccine, put this mask on, put your pronouns, call Bill, Cindy, kind of, they have absolute power over life and death. And now we're realists, so we all participate in this world that God has put us in this time, in this moment. And that means that, we're going to be spending US dollars and we're going to be participating on many, many different levels in this actual system. There's no escaping it altogether. But what I like and what I'm hearing from you is that it doesn't mean that we have to go gentle into that good night. It doesn't mean that we have to not build alternative and parallel institutions of our own and actually pursue sound money, honest practices, basically a Christian cultural ethos within our business pursuits and the way that we pursue business. So that was more a rant than questions, but I'm just kind of connecting some dots here, thinking about different activities. And what I'm seeing now kind of the way that I think I'm getting into the mind of Jace a little bit in how you're thinking about gold, not as an end where it's like your goal in life should be to put every dollar as an investment vehicle into gold, but rather that gold should be a layer of sound, high trust currency where you can save and actually preserve your labor in a commodity that can then be deployed at strategic opportunities to build productive Christian households, communities, businesses, and all the rest. Am I getting you right on that? Am I reading you right on that?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And I will make the caveat, and I think a lot of us are seeing this today, that you really are not allowed to compete with the US dollar.
Yeah.
And that's because it is the foundational weapon of their economic dominion.
Mm-hmm.
So even recently in reading, a little bit, and I'm not a Bitcoin guy, but you can tell the narrative changed from Bitcoin being a cryptocurrency to now Bitcoin being a preservation of value or a speculative asset. And you see that now it has the institutional approval through these ETFs and other SEC actions because they got it away from competing with the dollar. And I'll be upfront that they did the same thing to gold.
Yeah, with paper.
God, I do believe, created gold and silver as an element of currency, but I also think it's a store of value, right? When you think of just good, true, and beautiful things, jewelry, what have you, like those are still very much applications of gold and silver. But currencies, it's a good option. But the 70s were a major campaign against allowing gold and silver to be competitors to the US dollar.
Yeah.
So much so that for the 50 years prior to the 70s, you weren't even allowed to own gold as in a coin form.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to eliminate the competition and use the US dollar as a blunt instrument to do their will.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. So when you're backing up a little bit, because I kind of buried the lead a little bit on this one, but tell me how Alpine Gold, tell me how your business operates. What are you, and you work with a lot of different people with a lot of different goals. What are you trying to accomplish with Alpine Gold? How do people work with you? What are the different options that you're kind of deploying to pursue these visions with different use cases? I think people would be interested just to know a little bit more about that.
So when people call and ask about Alpine Gold and kind of what we're doing, a lot of times the conversation, for somebody who's not here locally in Utah will just simply lead to like, hey, we have a vault here south of Salt Lake City. It's privately managed. It's insured. It's audited. It's inspected. Our members can, our clients can come and see the vault and where the money is. And so, we do certain services that are kind of nationwide, right? And so we get a lot of calls about IRAs and how to get out of that Wall Street discussion that we were having before and into sound money or sound investment vehicles that are going to be physical and they're going to be located away from New York or away from Delaware or Switzerland or London or what have you. And it's in a private place here local to us. But as far as I think your question is more so how do we use Alpine Gold as an operating system here locally? And it actually can be done by people nationally too, who are not here in Utah. But the store of each business's value or profits in gold and silver allows for those profits to grow while we kind of survey the field for our next opportunity.
Yeah,
we run just a regular coin shop here. If you walked in, it would feel pretty humble, but hopefully very comfortable, and you would see our new guys and our old guys kind of cutting their teeth on dealing with customers and understanding the gold and silver market and recommending things to clients, and kind of under our mentorship, kind of just becoming familiar with the traditional conservative values we have in kind of monetary positioning, but also learning our ambitions and our risk taking on actual business enterprise. And so we've kind of created a bit of a pipeline where guys come into our business, they learn about Alpine Gold and kind of our philosophy on investing in money, and then they go out and they establish their own business, right? And so we have a great young man who came from Minnesota, and he had met us through the conference and reached out and was looking for a vocation. And I said, well, we're happy to bring you in and see how things go. And he was able to just join up with the team and identify his skills of accounting and kind of numbers. And now we're working into a new avenue of business through that entry point of our Alpine Gold storefront.
Yeah.
Because we don't have customers all day long every day. We are creating kind of what Dan and I like to call the opportunity zone, where you have guys coming in and out, rubbing shoulders. You have a commercial space where anybody from our community can just drop by. With all this remote working and all these folks in their houses, you don't get that opportunity just to swing through unannounced, because you wouldn't do that to somebody's house.
Yeah.
But with a storefront with a bunch of guys, 3, 4, 5 guys at a time that are working on different projects, it's a great place for guys to come and just kind of, discuss different ideas.
Yeah. It's funny. It reminds me of like the hardware store in Little House on the Prairie. All the men, they get together at the hardware store around the stove in the winter because things are slow and they're not out in the fields all day, and they just kind of hang out. And it's like the local opportunity zone, but on steroids in a lot of ways. I almost think this is probably one of the most important takeaways, I guess, from an episode like this that the average Christian man or family could take away as like one of the when we think about the value of our households, our productivity, our economic, our business, our dollars, our investments, we tend to think in terms of just spreadsheets and net worth. Like if I make this much money, I allocate this percentage of my pay to this investment vehicle or this savings vehicle or whatever it is so that I can accomplish X, Y, or Z mission. And that's great. But one of the most important aspects of net worth and of that calculation that we miss is like, who do you know? Who are you with? Who is shaping your ideas about productivity? Because I can tell you guys that getting it around the right people is the thing that will change your life. Like getting around the right people who are thinking the same way as you, pursuing the same goals, but maybe who are 10, 15 years down the road, or in terms of their success, they're way further along than you. And they can just tell you, hey, like, let me save you 10 years of lessons that I had to learn by losing money and failing. And if you get around the right people, it's difficult not to do better if you'll just listen and absorb and like be surrounded by those people. That's one of the things here in Ogden. You don't really get until you get, or I'm sure there's other places like this too, but until you get in those rooms and you meet with those people and you start to realize that it's possible. You don't have to be like enslaved in this system of just absolute, like getting robbed left and right, not really knowing what you're doing, predatory stuff everywhere you look. When you get in front of the right people, it changes everything. And I almost think like that, that's the biggest takeaway anybody could take. It's just, you got to figure out in your communities how to form those networks of Christians doing important work in not just in the worlds of doctrine and piety. Those are important, but in the worlds of economic and vocational dominion taking. And
Yeah, because you could become that way with finances too,
Mm-hmm.
where and maybe older guys are like this, or maybe some guys who are really into Bitcoin, which is fine. But you get into this like equivalent of like the cage stage kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where I think I saw a comment on Twitter. It was like touch grass, right?
touch grass, guys.
The plow, meets the field when you're actually, trying out different business endeavors. And I'm not here to say that it's easy, because, we kind of used to joke during like the 21, 22 time frame, like, oh, just make more money.
Yeah, we did all the time. Guys, we just got to make more money.
Yeah, just start a business. And I'm not here to oversimplify that or to make it sound like that's what we're saying. It is challenging.
Yeah.
But if you'll look at the needs of your community locally or online, and really look to serve that need really well, rather than just pursue what you perceive to be a good idea, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And then, getting these gangs of men together, I always call it like the fellowship, right? Like that's how deep friendships are made.
Yeah.
In pursuing common goals, whether that's, just minor positions in partnerships or working together every day. It's way underrated to be able to rub shoulders with your friends and your partners. And it's messy work.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh man.
But there's a lot of good that comes from it. And I always say, like, if we as Christians can't figure out how to work together, then we're never going to accomplish what we all hope to.
This is one thing. People who, maybe haven't built a business or they haven't been involved in partnership, it's underrated, the sanctification work that happens just through the sheer difficulty of partnership. We've both experienced this in our own endeavors. Like, this is just one of those aspects of real Christian building that will sanctify you very quickly, is moving from solo entrepreneurial activities or solo whatever you do, like, being a solo pastor is very similar to working with a real team. When you actually have other people involved, it brings the value and the potential up exponentially. When all of a sudden you introduce a whole new perspective and set of talents that God has given, and directions, and just all of the opportunity that arises from partnership. But it's also tremendously difficult because it requires the death of ego. You run into each other, you sin against each other, you figure out like every area where you are weak very quickly and strong as well. And it's like this dance of repentance and growth and learning to trust somebody else and the long-term benefit of it. It's easier to run really fast as a solo entrepreneur, but when you get involved in a community of men, or you start working in partnership with other people, the ceiling is so much higher than just you by yourself. But I think God did this on purpose. It takes death, constant death to yourself, constant death to ego.
Yeah, and like the previous generations, or at least in, that are still present with us today, will almost always tell you, don't get into business with other people.
Yeah.
The only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership.
It sinks.
And that's really sad, because it's not entirely untrue, but it is hugely limiting in what you're able to accomplish.
Yeah.
We have real world examples of this playing out in a good way. Like, I was shocked, when we were working on this opportunity in Phoenix, we raised 7 figures in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
From guys that you just wouldn't even expect. Like, we came together as a team, and it was a high trust transaction with high trust guys in Phoenix, high trust guys in Refuge. And now we're going to be able to be part of something that none of us individually would ever be able to be a part of.
Yep.
And there's this trap of TradFi maybe, or of other kind of financial strategies, that it's like, it's me, myself, and I. and it's my 401k and it's my IRA and it's my retirement and it's my house, my little castle in the suburb and on the golf course, whatever. I don't think there's a lot of guys in that trap necessarily, but there's still that temptation or that precedent that it's just me and my own finances.
Yeah.
But you can't make a big impact by yourself.
Are you tired of not feeling well and of having your doctor treat your symptoms without taking the time to investigate what's really going on? Rebecca Belch at Live Oak Integrative Health is here to help. Rebecca is passionate about helping women and families achieve the health that God designed in our bodies to have. With more than 20 years of experience as a critical care and labor and delivery nurse, she now serves as a licensed practitioner of functional medicine. Her goal is to address the root causes of dysfunction in your body and to help give your body what it needs so that you can create a legacy of health that extends to your children and grandchildren. She provides a wide range of testing options to uncover your underlying health issues, such as fatigue, weight gain, and gut problems. Then she works with you to develop a plan that focuses on nutrition, hormone balance, and long-term habits to promote enduring health. She also specializes in health for women who will become or currently are pregnant. This time is often overlooked and is the most important window to create generational health. Check out her website to book a free discovery call right now and get a $50 discount on any of her service options. You can do this on her website, liveoakintegrativehealth.com. Hey friends, let's talk about Gray Toad Tallow. They're a family-owned small business dedicated to making products that nourish your skin with the purest, most wholesome ingredients. For centuries, people have experienced the moisturizing and healing properties of tallow, and Gray Toad Tallow is committed to sharing these benefits their family has experienced with you. Besides their commitment to offering you a healthy skincare option for your family, Gray Toad Tallow's desire is to remain affordable and accessible to be a blessing to others. For more information and to try a balm sample pack, visit graytoadtallow.com. That link will be in the description along with this code, which we would urge you not to forget to use for 15% off your order. That code is all caps, BRIGHT15, BRIGHT15 for 15% off your order, and we truly appreciate your business. If you have a young family like me, you work hard every day to ensure you care for your wife and kids. Providing for a young family is challenging with rising costs. It doesn't look like things are going to change in the future. Maybe you've thought like I have, I wish I'd started investing years ago. My family would be in a better financial position. As they say about trees, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. Don't let the benefit of time go to waste on your financial planning for retirement or inheritance for your generations. Joe Garrissey with Backwards Planning Financial has been working with us to make the best plan for our family. He's a Christian who works with one of the largest and most trusted financial service companies in the world. He's been helping Lexi and I work towards our financial goals and helps us navigate the complexities of the markets. Whether you have millions in assets or you're just starting to invest, Joe Garrissey can help you reach your goals to grow the kingdom and leave a good legacy for your generations. Visit backwardsplanningfinancial.com. That's backwardsplanningfinancial.com, or call 615-767-2555 to speak with Joe to prepare for the future. The testimonials presented may not be representative of the experience of other clients and are not a guarantee of future performance or success. No, you have to get to the point of, we talk about this a lot. I think Eric stole it from a business book I didn't read, but moving from I to we is really difficult. Like me to we is actually, that's way better than I to we. Yeah. That's probably what it is. Because it rhymes. When you're solo entrepreneuring, when you're building, and that's great if you're a solo entrepreneur, do your best, like kill it, go build. That's great. But when you're in partnership or teams, you're actually having to cede some of your interest to the group. And what you're trying to do then is build something bigger than the sum of its parts, and moving from just, how can I absolutely maximize the number of dollars that I take home or the number of gold coins that I take home at the end of the day to how can I build community? How can I actually work hard to put money into the hands of my brothers and sisters in the community? It's one of the reasons people still they don't complain about it, but people, well, some of them do. But our position on Amazon, like as a New Christendom Press, we don't sell our books on Amazon. And trust me, it'd be more convenient to just
Definitely.
do the click and it's, there you go, Amazon, do your thing. We don't do that. One of the reasons is because we don't want to give a significant, and it's an astonishingly significant portion of a book sale. There's a reason that books are quickly moving into the $30 and $40 per book range. If you look at new books that are being published by major publishers, it's because Amazon is taking a significant percentage, building a monopoly that nobody can compete with. And basically they can raise the ceiling of how much cut they're taking
Just arbitrarily.
and ad infinitum. Like they can do it forever. They can then censor anything they want. They can, with a click, remove you. They can accidentally delay your product launch by 3 months arbitrarily. Oops, sorry guys. And try talking to their customer service. And what we experience is that after 6 hours on the phone, they'll hang up on you. And when I say they, I mean a guy in India will hang up on you.
Are we about to talk about H-1Bs?
We're about to talk about H-1Bs. No, but they, it's like, instead of that, let's inconvenience ourselves in the short term and hire people that we know. And I can walk upstairs right now and go, and it's like January 2nd, so they're probably not actually working right now, but I can go up and see the people that are shipping our books places. And I can go put a note in one and it can then get to somebody when I see, hey, I know this guy that just ordered this book. I can go put a note in there and say, hey, thanks for buying this book. Can't do that with Amazon. Now expand that concept to everything you do without purity spiraling, without freaking out and saying, I'm going to be paralyzed and not do anything until I can do it in the absolute platonic ideal of the Christian way. Yeah. Like Paul said, eat the meat sacrificed to idols, eat anything in the meat market without questions of conscience, even though the vertical integration of that economic system was highly problematic and involved demon worship, right? So not in a purity spiraling way, but in a principled way. How can we put money into the hands of our brothers and sisters in our communities, hire our people, take care of them well, not think when I'm hiring a Christian brother, how little can I get away with paying him, but how can I actually take care of this person? How can I make sure that they win as well? And I think at the end of the day, the factor that we so often forget to weigh in is the smile of God and the approval of God on our activities. And his blessing can make you have to factor that in. God blessing and God cursing.
Yeah.
It's like when I think one of the curses for Israel was that they would like harvest 10 bags of flour, and then when they went to use it, there would only be one. Because there'd be holes in their bags and there'd be moth eating, it'd be eaten up by pests. And it's like, how can we position ourselves to please God, build up his people and love one another? And
I mean that just to cut you off, like that could be a very good analogy to inflation and the system that we as prideful men have set up.
Absolutely.
Where we save and we have holes in our bags or in our pockets. It's really tragic. So
and here's the thing, kind of bottom line, I want people who are actually doing both kinds of things. And here's what I mean by that. I want men who are, when the Lord lamented that the sons of light were not nearly as cunning as the sons of this age. I want guys who are like absolutely adept in Robert Kiyosaki type of tactics. And Robert Kiyosaki, if there's one guy that I could point at in the popular sphere, I'm like, that guy understands fiat currency, the debt system. He understands how our tax system was set up from the inside. He gets it. And he clearly doesn't think it's a great thing. He's like, this is how the corrupt system works. I know how that corrupt system works. And so I'm just going to go and he's absolutely cunning and he makes cunning business moves. And I want guys who understand that system. And some of them, like the assignment from the Lord is for them to go out and absolutely turn a profit in that area and do well, and then use that mammon for the sake of God's kingdom. There are people that's their job. But if I don't think that the Lord only wants those people. I think he also wants people who are building something better, who are building something that is a parallel alternative that actually is built on the foundational principles of justice instead of on the principles of cotton candy. Like that's what our whole system is, but just cotton candy footings. Like imagine building a skyscraper with cotton candy footings. That's pretty much what we're doing. And that's where I see like what you guys are doing with Alpine Gold, but also with everything else that you do, and go, yes, I want that to win.
No, yeah, it's funny because Tim Six was asking me the other day what like my first books were that I read to kind of start on this journey.
Yeah.
How old was I? And I remember it was like I was like 20 or 21.
Yeah.
And the two books that I read were Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, of course.
Yep.
And then surprisingly, Donald Trump's Art of a Deal.
That's so awesome.
And motivations weren't great, but I resonated with Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And no offense if you read the book and it doesn't make sense, but
Sure.
if you do read the book and it just makes sense, you are probably, on that right mental trajectory to, be a business owner in the future.
Yeah.
But then there was that sinful kind of thing where it's like, I just want to get rich and I'm going to read Art of the Deal because I want to be like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be selling ties and I'm not going to make my own university or try to buy any casinos. So I've kind of gone away from the Trump strategy outside of real estate. But I think, getting the mindset of the long term, but also like you're saying, dealing with the system that we've been given. We're not going to get away from the US dollar for now.
Right.
That probably won't in our lifetime always be the case. We will need alternatives, and the world will be looking for truth in the space of currency, of what will work, and hopefully what will not totally oppress us, because digital currencies or blockchain forever transactions that can now somehow indict you for something you purchased or did would be unfortunate. But I think with the sense of listeners looking to at least store away some element or some portion of their savings for long-term preservation, I think gold is a great option. And I think as Christians collectively, if we pull out of the IRA, Wall Street, mutual fund, ETF world, and even out of the bank, we have a outsized impact. And I said this on the last podcast, but I've heard a lot of people resonate with it, that they didn't realize what an impact it could have to just take your money out of their system. And even if it is just cash in your mattress, but I don't think many people realize how we build our own prison cells with putting money into a standard bank account that is then leveraged and used to justify the creation of more money, or these speculative stock markets and derivatives. If we as a small community, even 10% of us, just like exited the banking system and only interacted with it when we had to. I'm not saying bank only with mailing your buddies gold and trying to pay your mortgage in silver. Like I'm not saying that, but if you pull your savings and you put into real things, be they, even Bitcoin, at least it's generally off of their plantation, but the impact that we would have as a group, I think, would be felt. There's all kinds of stats out there that show the fragility of the system that they've built. If even a handful of a percentage of the mortgage payers in this country just didn't make their payment this month, it would bring the system to its knees, because it's all operating on razor thin tolerances. And so that's probably like one of my messages to the collective Christian group. If we can get out of their banking system and only interact when we need to, it could have a huge impact, I think, long term.
So if someone vaults 10 ounces of gold with you, how many ounces of that do you lend out in a fractional reserve system?
0.
Okay, you don't. You're not into that.
Unless you tell me that you want to lease it out, in which case we will lease it and pay you interest, but we'll be honest that now that is not there.
You can't just go get it now. It'll be
it's like if you loan out your truck, it's no longer in your driveway.
Yeah, you can't.
But in the banking world, we assume that our savings account that's getting 3 or 4% interest is available to us at any time and making interest. That's something for nothing. That's not reality. So the reality is that money is not there. and they're going to play a shell game to get you your money when you need it. But it's this mental trap that's like, oh yeah, I can make interest on my money and still have it. No, we don't do that. You either pay somebody to protect your money, which is the storage and the insurance and the space that it takes and the infrastructure around vaulting gold, or you lease it out and make a profit. There's not really an in between. And so any vaulting system that isn't charging you money is suspect because they could be using it for other things.
They're covering their costs somewhere else.
Yeah. Like an ETF
Right.
is just, you're just buying shares of silver and gold at the spot price. Well, who's benefiting if there's no spread at all, or if there's no fee? Because technically, when you're buying a share of an ETF, it's supposed to be in the vault. Like if 10,000 ounces of silver gets purchased today on an ETF, that vault is supposed to add 10,000.
Right.
But if there's no fees or no spreads, what's their shtick? Like, how are they making money? Using that silver? And the answer is, they're leasing it out, and they're letting other people count that towards their reserves. And then you potentially get into a situation in an economic downturn or collapse where multiple people are making claims on the same assets. And this is not exclusive to gold and silver, but this is the type of scheming and fraud that happens every day, where it's going to be the man with the biggest stick or the best lawyer who wins. And it ain't me and it ain't you. It's the guys who wrote the commercial code in this country, and who have paid lawyers for decades to make sure that they can take everything that they can get their hands on and leave the retail guy with nothing.
It's like an old principle of business that you need to understand how a business makes its money to understand the business. Especially even as a consumer in a business, you need to understand. Like, think about people using social media, not understanding how that like, you are the product. Your data is the product. Your behavior is the product. Your attention is the oil of the modern internet economy. You make money by getting attention today. That, a huge amount of our economy is basically built on this. So once you understand that, you understand the motivation of a company like a social media company, then you can actually guard yourself adequately, because what are they trying to do? Well, they're actually trying to get you to give as much of your attention as humanly possible through their algorithm and all the other dopamine incentive structures, to give all your, if you would give 14 hours a day of attention to Facebook, they would love that. What's that?
They'd still want more.
They'd still want more. They'd be ecstatic, and they wouldn't, they might donate a trivial amount to some, we are investigating the effects of social media on teens. Sure you are. Like, what are you? You're actually investing 100 times more that you donated to that nonprofit to figure out with psychologists how to get teenagers to use your thing as much as humanly possible. So that's with a business like with you guys. One thing I appreciate is that I know how Alpine Gold makes a profit and exists as a business, which is fair. It's a fair exchange. I shouldn't want you to do something for me for free. Hey, vault my gold, insure it, protect it with, make sure no one can steal it, and if they do, it's insured, but do it for free. Well, if that's how it looks, then you're not doing it for free.
No, we'd have to figure out some other way.
There's some shady way or a non-transparent way that you're...
And it is a really reasonable fee, just if anybody's curious. Like $100,000 in gold would cost you $20 a month to store, insure, and protect. But it is funny in this business because we joke that, people come in and they always want to know, like, what's your margin on this coin? How much are you making on this? And it's like, what other business do you go in and ask the owners, what their margin is?
What's your margin on this haircut?
Yeah, like how much? Hey, Walmart, like how much did you buy this about pens for? Is your markup pens like 50 or 100%? And our margins are like razor thin. Like gold is about 2 to 2.5%, and silver is a little bit more, like 5 to 10%, depending on what it is. But we're upfront about it. We think it's a funny question, but
it is.
We try to be as competitive as possible, and it's just kind of an interesting transparency that we are forced to deal with, but we don't have a problem with.
Yeah. So summarizing, we'll wrap it up here. If someone's interested in getting into precious metals, gold and silver, different vehicles and versions of gold and silver, they can reach out to you. We'll have some kind of contact form in the description, I believe.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you want to schedule like a meeting, that's been the best way to connect. We had a ton of outreach from the King's Hall last summer, and we've had great conversations with folks.
Yeah.
And even if it's just educational, like we're not, we're here to connect with listeners because we believe in this community. So we've had a lot of good conversations, but yeah, you can call and find out how to move a portion or all of your IRA from Wall Street to Utah. And it functions very similarly. We still have to play by the rules.
Yeah.
But at least that metal is there in a private vault and it's real and you're working with guys like us. But even if it's just like a question on business or an idea, man, I'll even do a plug for guys looking to invest in Christian businesses.
Yeah.
Where, like the Phoenix deal, like I think there's going to be more of those opportunities, and I'd love a chance to talk with guys who are maybe interested. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount of money, but if that's kind of this headspace that you're in, like give us a call, schedule a meeting on the Calendly link, or check out our website and just peruse.
Yeah. And I think the long term, like we probably agree on this. One of the long term plays that I would love to see happen, and we're aiming to be a part of this here in Ogden at New Christian Press. It'd be obviously bigger than us as well. Would be to establish and operate multiple funds, investment funds that are high trust networks of Christians that can make a difference in communities that are high trust, like Ogden and different places like that.
Yeah.
And gold and silver is one of the vehicles that helps as you're storing your labor and your wealth somewhere to be prepared to take advantage of opportunities like that.
Yeah. And these are humble beginnings.
Yeah.
But we do have, ambitions of being a source of capital as a group. Like, we joke about the Wonderful Life and like the Bailey's Building and Loan or, those kind of things. Those have existed in the past and they can exist again in the future if we would collaborate and have a trusted place to store funds and then identify future opportunities. Because what is a banker? Like, you think of Poldark back, the PBS series or I don't know if you watched any of that, but it's set in like the 1700s or early 1800s, small county in England. Yeah. And, Poldark is a landowner and he goes to his banker, and the banker is a middleman. He is connecting people with money to guys who need capital for an idea.
Yeah.
And that is at its core what a bank was intended to do, was to protect people's, assets and then connect people who have money with people who need money. And if we can do that in the Christian space, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our long-term why.
Yep.
The more people that we can gain trust, the more people that we can take care of their money for them. Then it's like, I know John Smith, but we actually have a guy named John Smith.
Yeah, we do. That's funny.
Pat Murphy, hey, you have $100,000 in your account. We got this guy over here who's looking to start a new enterprise. Why don't we meet up and discuss potential opportunities and returns for this adventure? I mean, that's the goal with insurance. Being able to provide better rates and insurance policies, all that kind of stuff. Like, we can do that in the financial world if we have a stable backing, and that's why gold is our operating system. Because it has the pedigree, it has the historical track record. Nothing against anything else that's going out there today, but there's no asset or currency mechanism out there that has the stability and the track record of gold and silver.
Yeah. So. Well, guys, I hope this has been helpful and that it spurs different thoughts, ambitions, and ideas for you. Again, just to be clear, Jace is not a hairy-chested Italian man. Nothing against hairy-chested Italian men trying to predatorily steal your money or anything like that. Alpine Gold is a business that we trust. One of the values of podcasting and things like that is that one of the biggest gaps in our world right now is a trust gap, where you just don't know, and we don't have mechanisms to get to know people and establish trust. And there's been a breakdown of trust across every industry in America and across society. And we aim to be a part of just helping reestablish networks of trust where you can say, if I call Alpine Gold and I want to do business with them, I know I'm going to talk to Jace, or I'm going to talk to Stu. I'm going to talk to guys that are members in good standing at a Christian church I know, and they're going to not mistreat me. They're not going to rob me. They're not going to, they're going to seek my good, and I'm going to seek their good, and it's going to be an aligned good for the sake of God and His glory. So reach out. There'll be a link in the description. You can talk more with Jace. We hope that this was helpful to you guys. Next episode of Bright Hearth, we're going to be talking about Lexi and my favorite books from 2024. So look forward to that episode as well. And Lexi always brings some of the most, I'm like, you read what? She'll have these wild niche books that's what she was hunched over there in the corner at night reading. She's awesome. So we'll be going through our favorite books of 2024 in the next episode of Bright Hearth. We'll catch you then. Until then, guys, make haste slowly. And in all that you do, do it for the glory of God.